My character is Professor Archelius Velu. I have no idea if I said that right. Professor of Biology and speaker of 5 languages. He's 63, so he's not too much use in a fight, but he's wise and he knows a lot.
He sounds really handsome.
Well, I don't know about that, but hopefully he'll be a useful part of the team.
He definitely sounds like it. What about our last character?
Well, she's thinking. Oh, no, like, I can see little specks on my glasses and they're driving me insane and I needed to wipe them off on my hoodie. There. Clear vision.
We're playing Ignotsky.
My character's name is Jane Two Guns Feltzner, and I'm one of the toughest, meanest frauds around. I am 6'2" and can rip a man in half by looking at him if I don't shoot him between the eyes first. I've been in the mob since I was just a little 15-year-old tyke, and I'm one of their best enforcers. But I never go anywhere in the family because they don't think it's right for a girl to be in the upper levels in the 1920s. But they can't get rid of me either because I'm just the damn best there is at what I do.
Wow, a compelling backstory.
Thanks, I liked it.
Why is she called Two Guns?
Because she has 2 guns.
That makes sense.
Yup. Although I need to figure out how a mob character is going to get accepted into a group with all these other people.
You need have no concerns for that. That is my province, for I am the Keeper of arcane lore, the controller of the vast forces of the universe, focused now on your small band of people. I, or in more mundane terms, the DM. Are we all ready to begin?
I think so.
Then let us start. You all meet in a bar. You met here because...
Wait, hold on a second. Why are we all wearing our school uniforms?
You're not. Janie is wearing a dark suit and a fedora, concealing her trademark 2 guns underneath her coat. John Quinn is wearing a brown trench coat and loafers. Professor Valo is wearing a tweeded jacket and a button-up shirt with a colorful bow tie. And Miss Easting is wearing a wonderful green evening gown. Any resemblance to our ordinary school uniforms is purely coincidental. Just use your imagination and suspend your disbelief a little bit. This is a tabletop role-playing game, after all.
You've got it, Chief.
You are all met here because a few months ago, a rare book was stolen from Professor Valo's office at the university. The professor hired Mr. Quinn to look into it, and Miss Easting, a former client of Mr. Quinn's, who hangs around his office ever since, insisted on involving herself in helping, although he was rather reluctant about it. During the investigation, it came out that the mob had stolen the book. In fact, Janie had stolen the book, but the mob didn't act on its own behalf. It was paid by someone else, a mysterious cult, as it turned out. When the group offered to double Janie's pay to get the book back, she found that she had given the book over to some fairly terrible people. The group retrieved the book from the cult's hideout, but after seeing things that left a lasting impression on them. Since then, the group has grown close together, investigating the cult's doing. But that's not why you're in the bar today. Today, Mr. Quinn has been approached by a potential client, Stephen Knott. Mr. Knott owns a piece of real property that he's been trying to sell for almost a year. But the property he owns has the reputation of being haunted, and it's scaring off potential buyers. John invited Mr. Knott to the bar to see if he'd take the case. And John also invited the rest of your little impromptu group, since they've been such close friends in investigating the cult recently. And with that, we can start. Mr. Knott is a friendly man in his 30s, a little tired-looking, but otherwise enjoying the bar.
So first of all, what is this property?
Well, it's a pretty big lot with what looks like an old run-down school on it. Apparently, the school hasn't been in use for like 50 years if you take a look at the records. Some people say something bad happened around then, but I don't know. It seems like old superstition to me. I visited a couple times, but didn't find anything weird. Just seems like an old abandoned school to me.
So, Mr. Knott, if I may ask, what is it you expect us to accomplish?
Just go through the place, search it top to bottom, and give it a clean bill of the supernatural health, I guess. That way I can reassure potential buyers.
And we're looking for ghosts?
No, although if you find any, let me know. No, just go through it and make sure it's uninhabited and doesn't have any obvious issues that might cause someone to think it's haunted. Like no broken machinery causing strange noises in the night, anything like that.
Is strange noises in the night something you have reason to think might happen?
Well, here Mr. Knott seems somewhat hesitant.
I pour him another drink and put one hand conspiratorially on his shoulder. Come on, Mr. Knott. We've got to know all the details if we're going to do this job for you.
You can roll your persuade skill with advantage since you approached him in such an easygoing manner.
What does advantage mean?
It means you roll the D100 twice and keep the best lowest result.
Oh, they're playing by like Dragon Quest rules.
29. That's a pass.
Well, I guess yes. One buyer a couple months ago was all set to close on the property, but then toured it and came back ranting about weird noises in the night. I tried to follow up on it, but he was so vague, and he just says there was bumping, and he couldn't tell me where it was coming from at all. I've had professionals look over the place a dozen times since then, but they can't find anything.
How did he get ownership of this property? Did he buy it?
I inherited it last year.
And who was the person he inherited it from?
My great-uncle. He didn't have a will, and apparently it wasn't or discovered that he was the technical owner of the property until after he died. And so one day, I just got a letter from the court saying I now own this old abandoned school.
That's very sad. I'm so sorry for your loss.
Oh, I never knew him at all. It's just that owning this property is a little weird. I just want to sell it or rent it or whatever. Be done with it. I don't have any use for it.
I see. Well, Mr. Knott, we might be able to help you. My going right to investigate this matter will be...
Monica consults a currency time conversion chart.
$20 up front and $20 per day, and I will cover any expenses as well as the help of my associates here.
$20? Well, I suppose that's fair, and a good price for the whole team.
We'll need the keys.
Of course, here you are. He hands over the keys with the jingle. Let me know if you need anything. The address is written on this card. I've got to be going. Good luck. Call if you need anything. He downs his drink briskly and walks out of the bar. What do you want to do now?
We could go investigate the school. I think we have to find out as much as we can about it before we go there. There probably isn't anything dangerous, but if there is, we'll be better equipped to deal with it if we know the layout. And any other information we can find.
An excellent suggestion, Mr. Quinn. What course do you suggest?
Hey, you're really starting to get into it, aren't you, MC? Why, thank you, Professor. Perhaps we ought to look up any public records we can find about the property.
We could look up whether schools are ever been in the news on the internet.
It's the 1920s, there's no internet.
Fine. What's the 1920s equivalent of looking up on the internet if something has ever been in the news?
Probably going through old newspaper archives.
Well, that sounds tedious as hell, but yeah, let's do it.
So we've got news archives and public records. But what kinds of public records? Well, like property records, I guess. Maybe court records, too. I still think we ought to go to school. Or at least, scope it out from a distance.
Well, how about this? I'll go look up stuff from on the newspaper archives. Or in the newspaper archives, I guess. Jessica and John can go scope out the school and its surroundings. And the professor can go dig through government records. That seems like professor stuff.
Seems reasonable. Except I think I ought to look through the records, and you can go accompany Jessica to the school. You're the one that's really handy in emergencies, and it seems like if anything goes weird, it'll be at the school. So Jessica will need you there to protect her. Come protect me, two guns!
Alright. Let's get to it then.
And so the group decides to split the party almost immediately. This is definitely always a good idea in tabletop RPGs.
Hey, we don't need any start from the universe running Eldritch, whatever you want.
Fair enough. Well, as our team scatters off to investigate, I'll let you decide where we look for now. Probably our investigators are in no actual danger, splitting the party or not. But you never know. Let's check in with someone.
This seems like the most interesting thing. Let's do the least interesting stuff first. I feel like this is probably the least interesting. Controller, work. Don't crap out on me. I need you alive.
You arrive at the records office.
Kinda looks like a school library to me.
Oh, hush. What are you looking for?
Does my professor have any ideas as to where to start?
Well, usually you're the one who needs to have the ideas, but make an idea roll.
43.
Perhaps a good place to start, Professor Below thinks, would be in publicly available real property records.
Ah, alright, of course. Probably I should look at the history of who's owned but the property, like transfers of ownership and such. Do I know how to find that?
Somewhat, but with the help of a kindly clerk in the office, you'll find what you were looking for after a half hour or so. You'll find that the school was actually built in 1835 and remained in operation for 15 years. At that time, the school switched sites due to changes in shifting populations. The property was going to be cleared, but before that, it was bought by Walter Corbett, Esquire. Nothing then happens for about 20 years. But then you see that a lawsuit against Corbett and the property is recorded, seeking an order for him to vacate the property, which apparently he was using as a residence. And here the note says that this was in consequence of his serious habits and unauspicious demeanor.
I don't know if I pronounced Shurius correctly.
No outcome is recorded, but Corbett died 10 years later, and his death certificate, which you also find, says he was still living in the school. After his death, his neighbors filed another lawsuit to prevent him from being buried on the grounds of the property, somewhere in the basement area.
Does it say what happened in that suit?
Not that you can find in the real property records.
Maybe there were court records. I should probably head to the court for that, but those court cases would be pretty old by now. Maybe I can find them here. I look for legal records relating to the property.
Make a library use roll.
67. That's a pass.
Being familiar with musty tomes and old records is coming in handy for you. You find nothing, unfortunately, about the property lawsuits. You do find, looking at Corbett in legal records, that the executor of his will was a Reverend Michael Thomas. The record lists Thomas as the pastor of the Chapel of Contemplation and Church of Our Lord, Granter of the Secrets.
Wow, that does not sound good.
Now what next for the professor?
I can't really think of much else to look up here.
Make a law skill roll.
Oof, 93, not even close.
Then indeed you cannot think of much else to look up here.
Dang, I'm trying to think of what it was that I missed.
You cannot always assume you are missing something. I may be throwing a red herring and a false skill to roll at you.
That's true. But man, it really does feel like I missed something. Maybe it's time to go meet up with everyone else and compare notes.
First, let's go let those of them who need to complete their side of the investigation.
Where to next? John Quinn at the newspaper archives.
You arrive at the offices of the local newspaper.
You mean the student council's hallway in our school?
You arrive at the offices of the local newspaper.
Well, let's see. Is there someone at the front, like a receptionist or something?
Yes, there's a young man working at the front desk who pleasantly asks how he can help you.
Hello there. I'm investigating a real property issue and I'm trying to find past newspaper clippings with regard to the property. Does this newspaper maintain dead copies?
You mean the morgue? That's what we call the clippings room. Yes, we do have it, but it's not open to the public, I'm afraid.
Are there no exceptions? It's for an important public purpose.
And you are?
John Quinn, private investigator. I'm acting on behalf of a local landowner investigating his own property's records and history.
I see. Well, I'll get Mr. Wilmot. He's in charge of that kind of thing.
I take care to treat this young man very politely and thankfully. Thank you so much, I'll wait here.
I'll be back in just a moment. He doesn't seem to have been affected by one way or the other by your deferential politeness. After a moment, a middle-aged, slightly portly man comes out. R.T. Wilmot, at your service. Something about trying to get into the clippings?
Yes, sir. I am investigating the history of a piece of local property on behalf of its owner. It would be extremely helpful if I could look through the past issues for information.
Well, I'm afraid it's quite impossible. He looks rather self-satisfied telling you this. The morgue is for the newspaper's own use, or police or anyone else who lawfully needs access.
Well, I assure you that my need is lawful. Like I said, it's for a local landowner. They think there might be an old hazard on their property that isn't obvious, and they need to look into the clippings to see if that's so. And if so, what can be done about it?
He stops for a moment, considering your argument. That seems to be a use of the persuade skill, so let's have a persuade roll from you.
Oh, my intimidate is a lot higher than my persuade. 50. 98, fail.
He crosses his arms and you can see the denial setting in on his face. Do you want to try to push the roll?
Yes, but here's what I do. I get close to him, not too threatening, but inside his personal space. And I lower my voice real low. Look, buddy. If this doesn't get figured out, there's gonna be people hurt. And if people get hurt, there are gonna be lawsuits. And I ain't got a horse in this race. So if people get hurt, I'll be happy to tell a court about how the newspaper could have prevented it. But decided not to because the morgue is not for public use.
Alright, roll intimidate.
3, critical success, I think.
Was that a 5? It was a low number.
Certainly a success in any event. Alright, sheesh, just don't take too long, alright? I've got to go to lunch soon, and I can't have you hanging around too long.
Thanks, Mr. Wilmot. I promise I won't take up too much time.
He leads you down into the basement.
Still looks like the same hallway to me.
Ugh. There, better.
This is clearly not the basement of a newspaper.
Close enough.
Fine. I start looking for clippings related to this house.
At this point, you haven't spoken to the investigators about their efforts, so